few people have been asking me over the winter, when are you going to post more videos? Well, the answer is whatever day you see this one, it's today. It probably won't be the day I filmed it or videoed it, but there's a comment on my age, filmed versus videoed. At any rate, it's almost 50 degrees. I don't know what the temperature is here in the shop, but that's warm enough to get out here and start to do some stuff. If you were following along the whole series, I was putting the power steering pump on, and turned out that when I bought it, it was a power steering pump for a 76 Chevy. And a 76 Chevy Corvette is different. So I had to send that back, and that's where it ended before the weather turned and the holidays came, and I went on vacation and I did a project in the house, and now I'm back. At any rate, so I compared these two power steering pumps, and they look like it's correct. The two studs here and here. This is a little bit off, but this is bent. It bent when I was removing it, the hose from it or something. But the studs are in the proper location. The connectors are in the proper location. So I go to put the bracket on to install it to the motor, the engine. And that fits around this bottom stud with this slotted thing here. And then there's a bolt here, over here, directly opposite the stud, that goes through this hole, like, trying to keep my arm out of the way here, like so. And then this bolts to the engine. So, take it off of there. I don't have the pulley installed. I decided that it's probably going to be easier if I install the power steering pump first and then put the pulley on, because I won't have to hold the power steering pump from moving. So you go to put this on, and I'm going to try to lay this so you can see, but it won't go on. I'm going to zoom in real close to where the issue is, and get me a very sharp pointing device like a pick. Okay, so if you can see right here, this part of the slot that it goes in is hitting on this stud, and that's preventing it from going all the way on. So I thought about tapping it with a hammer, but then I thought better of that, because I was afraid that tapping on that with a hammer could bend the body of the thing and cause a leak. So what I decided to do is, since the bolt sits down in here, I'm not going to lose any connection or any strength of the connection if I just grind a little bit of that lip off that's running into the stud. So, hate to do that to my newly painted piece, but that's what the solution is going to be. So here we go. This probably is going to take 2 or 3 times to fit it before I get it right, but I'm just going to grind off that piece right there. I don't want to go too far, so it's probably going to be several attempts at fitting it a little bit at a time. I'm going to zoom that out a little bit. Hopefully I won't have it out of the frame when I move it to try and fit it. There you go. First time, not too bad. Now the question is, do I put the bracket on the engine first, or do I and then try and mount the power steering pump to it because it went in easy enough? Or is it going to be easier if I mount the pump to the bracket first? And probably the main thing there is going to be putting that hole in, or that bolt into that hole. And since I have elected to wait until I put the pulley on, I think I'm going to try putting the bracket on first and see how that works. I don't know if you saw any of that. Yeah, you probably did. I'm going to try putting the bracket on first and see how that works, because it'll be pretty easy to get the front bolt in there. And actually the other bracket that is already on the motor engine, it's a little misaligned because I've tightened up the one bolt by the motor mount, and it's going to be a little bit difficult to get those. See if I can just turn this and get that, you know. That bracket right there, I don't know if you can even see the holes in it. They're towards the bottom on the left hand side, right near the balancer, and those aren't lined up well. So I'm probably going to have to loosen the bolt that is by the motor mount, and then I'll have a little wiggle in the bracket there to get this bracket I just modified on. So here's the bracket that I was talking about. Let me go get the bolts that hold the bracket I just modified on, and I'll show you how they don't line up quite right unless I loosen the bolt at the motor mount. So these two long bolts have to go in here, and they don't quite line up. So this bolt over here needs to be loosened. And then I'll be able to move this around a little bit and get me some room to work there. And so this bolt at the motor mount, and all the bolts actually, are 9/16. Hopefully that will do it. I know that this notched bracket goes to the back. Just try to get the top one in first. That one's started. Second one started. Now the two studs have to go here and here, so I'm not sure whether put that on the engine block first was the way I needed to go, because I have to get it into this stud has to go into that slot as well. So I don't think that's going to work, because this return line for the fluid hits on this, and I can't get it up. So I've got to take this off, mount it to the power steering pump, and then install it all together at once. I took it off that way, but I didn't know whether it had to go back on that way. Well, like I always say, you watch my channel, you see everything. You see what I do right, you see what I do wrong, you see what happens if I have a real disaster. So the good, the bad, and the ugly, as I call it. So there's value in that all the time, and well, most of the time maybe. But the point is, if you've watched this video, now you know, don't put this bracket on until you've put it on to the power steering pump. I'm going to try to do this without getting in the way of the camera, but as you can see here, hopefully you can see. Yes, there's a nut, and hopefully I won't move it out of the way of the camera. But there's a nut up here, a flat washer and a lock washer, and then a nut on the stud. And that's because I can slip this behind that stud. I have a bolt with a lock washer that goes in this side. I'm going to put these on and thread them in till they're kind of snug, but still will allow the bracket to move. so that I have some wiggle room when I go to put on the engine. Okay, so now I won't have this rigidly mounted to the motor, to the engine. I'll be able to put the stud in on the top and get it installed. Move the camera again. Hopefully you'll be able to see this well enough. But first thing I'm going to do is put this stud through that slot. That's the adjusting slot for adjusting the tension on the belt. Once I get that on, it'll actually be supported from falling. And I can go grab the bolts that hold the bracket, and I'm going to go with the top one again. I've got looks like I've put that on and off there so many times. I've got some of the orange showing. I told the machine shop I wanted the block painted orange. I'm not orange, black. And you know, Chevys are traditionally orange, so they painted it orange, and they called me and said, "We painted it orange. If you want, we'll paint it black if that's what you really want." And I said, yes. So now I got some orange showing, since the black isn't as I guess it peels off easier because there's another coat of orange underneath it. But I scraped it apparently in doing this. So now I can tighten those bolts. And guess what? That one wasn't aligned. Okay. Thought I had that started and I didn't. Loosen it up a little. Get that one aligned. It started. Well, still don't think that started. I have to try it from the other side here. Unfortunately, now that I've got this in there, I can't really see what's out of alignment. Is it this bracket or is it the bracket that's on the engine? Or Let's see. Get tough to turn with my fingers, so maybe it's started. Yep, it's going in. So now those are started. I'm going to have to check my manual, see if there's some torque specs to this. I doubt that there are. And even if there are, probably not that critical. So, as long as you get it good and tight. Now, the question is, should I tighten this one up a bit while yeah, I'm going to. I'm not doing the bottom one real tight because I want that to be a little loose to, where I bolted the actual bracket to the power steering pump. That one has to be a little loose in order to tighten the belts. And I went years when I was a whole lot younger, not knowing you had to loosen that to adjust the belt. I'd loosen this one, try to adjust the belt, and nothing would happen. So, okay, next thing is going to be to install the pulley. And they give you a stud and a nut and a washer to help you install it. You basically put the stud into the shaft. I do have a pulley installer and remover kit somewhere in my toolboxes because it's one of those things you don't use very often. But I had to buy it one time. And so now I have it. But since they were kind enough to provide me this to install it with, I'm going to just use it. Okay. Now the trick is going to be, as you pull that on, just drop something. As you pull that on, you got to keep it from turning. One way you could do that is to have a belt on it. However, if you have a belt on it, it's not lined up because the pulley's not on the way, all the way yet. It's hard to hold. Try it without a glove. That's just denting that washer. That's not good. I'm going to try to find a heavier washer and see if I can do better. So here's a real tool to do that instead of just a stud and a nut and a washer. Notice that this is not going to bend, but the technique is the same. You screw this in. Better make sure that's the same thread. So it matches up perfectly, but from use, this is a little damaged on the thread up on the top. You can see, at least I think you can, that this is the same thread. Let me check my box. Maybe there is another bolt. This was used on a 99 Jeep, so I don't know whether that was metric or standard. Okay, just as I was about to go take a hike up to my garage to get a die to clean up those threads, I decided to use the nut that was on the stud that they gave us to see if it fit, and it fits. So maybe I just didn't have it aligned properly in there, but it is the correct correct thread, and I should be able to use it to get that on. I must not have had it lined up well. Jeez. Okay, it's going. I just can't turn it with my fingers. So I'm going to get a 9/16 inch wrench before I finish this. Oh, maybe I'll just take the extension off of this socket. That'll work just as well. But when I get that threaded in as far as I can. And what did I do with my wrench for this one? Oh, I don't need it. I didn't turn it in tight, so but I'll need it to put the pulley on. Okay, that appears to be bottomed out. Let's use this to line it up really good. There's my wrench. I knew I had it. wrong side. This is 11/16. Using the ratcheting action on the one I'm holding. I can't tell whether that's going on or not. No, it's turning the shaft of the pump. I've got to figure a way to hold that. That's not going straight, that's for sure. I think I have to pull that back off and start over. I should have shown you the puller, but I didn't turn the camera on. Basically, it's a bolt with this flange here, and it's got this, and you see that little lip there, it catches in the groove of the pulley. You put this ring on it to stabilize it, and you tighten this bolt in and it pops right off. So what I'm going to do, since this appears to be giving me problems, I'm going to lubricate that shaft a little bit, and hopefully that will help it to go on. Okay, we're going to try this again. What I put on there was some simple green. It's a soap basically. It doesn't seem to be going on straight. Nobody ever said it was going to be easy. I can't even tell whether it's going on at all. Hurts my hand without a glove. With a glove, it just slips. Gonna have to. This may be one of those situations where I play around with it and then I come back and tell you what I did. But somehow I've got to hold that pulley and turn that nut. Okay, I've got it partway on. I'm going to show you what I'm trying to do here. Still got a ways to go, but this is a strap wrench that's really meant for a oil filter. And I put it around the pulley, like such. And that allows me to hold the pulley. And then I held the bolt with a socket on it and use this wrench to put it on. Seems to have gone part way, but it's not all the way. Really tough. So, holding 3 tools with 2 hands, and every once in a while it slips. So I'm going to shut off the video now and try to get it the rest of the way on. So it's been probably a couple hours that I've been playing with this, and I finally came up with something that seems to be working. I got a deep socket onto the part that pushes the pulley. I got this strap wrench, and I actually had to get a pipe on the end of it so that I could get more leverage. But point is, I needed to turn this till I got the ratchet on the socket, and it helps me keep that band in place. Oh, slipped off. But that's what helps me keep the band in place. And I actually made a little bit of progress that way. And I did put some WD-40 on the shaft of the pump. So again, till this gets around and gets on that shaft. Okay, that sound, I believe, I hope, was the shaft going on to the, or the pulley going onto the shaft. Yep. Now, if you've been following, I have had to put an 1/8 of an inch shim underneath that shaft's or belt slipped again. Had to put an 1/8 of an inch shim under the water pump for it to clear the timing chain cover. So I'm going to leave this out about an 1/8 of an inch. On the one that came off, I looked at it, it was all the way up against the pump. So I'm going to leave it out about an 1/8 of an inch to give me better alignment on the belt. Okay. It's tough with all these moving pieces to keep everything lined up. Like I said, this has to rest down onto the socket there. Felt like it went on a little bit more. I'll try to give myself a little more leverage by sliding that pipe out a little bit. Trying to look back there and get an idea of when it's on far enough. Sorry for getting in the way, but I don't, as hard as this is to get on, I don't want to have to pull it off some, because that's just extra work that's unnecessary. Anyways, you get the idea of what I'm doing here. The real challenge is holding that shaft from spinning while you press it on. I'm sure that once it's pressed on, it's not going anywhere. I may, just for safety's sake, once I get it on, put a washer and a nut in there. It doesn't require one, but I may put one in there just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. I don't think it will with the effort that it took to get it on this far. So I'm going to finish doing it that way, unless there's some other thing that occurs that I need to show you. I will just be continuing to do that until I get it to where I want it to be on the shaft. So here's where I am for now. I found the old belt that was on there, and I put it on between the crankshaft pulley and the power steering pulley, but I don't know which. There are 3 grooves, and I don't know offhand which of those 3 grooves that it belongs in. So I'm going to have to go look at my 74 find out whether it's the first one, which it looks like it fits here, so that might be it. If that's the case, then these are pretty close, but depending on whether I have to shim the crankshaft pulley out because of shimming the water pump out, if I have to shim that out 1/8 of an inch, I may be 1/16 of an inch too far already. So I'm not going to waste the effort of putting that on further. It doesn't look to me like even bringing that in the 3/16 that I measured, that it's not all the way on the shaft. And I'll do that again. Doesn't look like if I take it all the way in that it would be far enough to even work on the first pulley on the water pump, the first groove. So here's what we got. Hopefully that will show up on the, it's right at about 1/4 of an inch. The first time I measured it, I thought I got 3/16. Let me measure that again. That looks like if I measured there on the pulley, I get 1/4. On this side, you get about, well, a little less than 1/4. I don't have this all the way tightened up yet either. That might pull it in just a little bit, but if this belt belongs on that front pulley, I really don't need to go any further, because I'd just be making it out of alignment that way. The power steering pump pulley would be too far in. So that's where I'm going to leave it for today, and I'm going to find out for sure where that belt goes, and then I'll have a plan for, I think this is going to need to be shimmed out, because when I look at the water pump pulley versus the crankshaft pulley, it's too far off, I think. So this probably needs to come out that 1/8 of an inch, and then we'll see where we stand with that. So what I thought should have been an easy couple-hour task has taken me all afternoon. I know I came down here at 1 o'clock, so it's 4:42. I was working on this by 1 o'clock because I had to reset the clock from daylight savings time. So, or 10:01, I should say, it was when I reset the clock. And I was already here getting ready to do that. So that's where this stands for now. This may or may not be the end of this video, depending on what I find out. So if it is the end, thanks for watching. If not, I'll be right back. So here I am at the engine bay of the 74, and you're going to find out when I do about where that pulley goes, or that belt goes. That's the water pump I need to show. I think I'm going to see it better from the other side. think it is on the outer pulley. So, outer groove, I should say, of the pulley. There's the power steering belt way in the back there. And you can actually see, maybe I'll try the light on the camera. Press the right button. Light on the camera, so you can see the power steering pulley right there. I'm in an awkward position, so my hand's shaking. But that's the power steering pulley. And as you can see, the two pulleys on the water pump. The back one is used for the alternator. Front one isn't used because air conditioning was removed from this car. And then there's the crankshaft pulley with 3 grooves. The one that's a smaller pulley right here, that is the power steering pulley. Second one is empty, that was for air conditioning, and the third is the water pump and alternator. So I think I'm good on the placement of where I have it on the 76. I certainly don't want to go any further, because if I have to shim out the crankshaft pulley, then I'm actually going to have to pull that off a bit, pull it further off, and so it's a good thing I stopped where I did, because I'd have been doing unnecessary work and I'd have just had to undo it. So that will be the end of this video, and again, thanks for watching, and I hope we have a lot more nice days so I can get down there to work on the 76. One last comment on my theory as to why that thing was so hard to get on that shaft. And my theory is that they took a pulley that was manufactured to specs, original specs, and then they chrome plated it, and it was chrome plated inside that bore where the shaft, where it goes on the shaft. So any plating you put on that is going to add, might be thousandths of an inch, which is going to reduce the size of that bore. And I think that's why I had such a time holding it, because I had done that before on a Jeep and it was nowhere near that hard to hold it and keep it from turning as I pressed it onto the shaft. So I think that's it. Have a nice day.